Good evening and welcome to the news today. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani arrived in France today, looking to revive business ties. It's Rouhani's first trip abroad since a sanctions-lifting nuclear accord took effect. Earlier this week, he visited Italy, where his 120-member delegation signed billions of dollars worth of deals. Shai Ben-Ari has more.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani is in Europe on his first official visit to the continent. He arrived in France Wednesday, following 2 days in Italy. The reception in Paris was not especially warm.
Any relation between European countries and that dictator regime must be dependent on improvement, major improvement on human rights situation, release of all political prisoners, and a stop in executions.
Rouhani's focus during the visit has been on meeting local business leaders with a look towards reintegrating Iran into the global economy. While still in Rome, there were friendly messages issued toward the West in general.
It's possible that Iran and the United States might have friendly relations, but the key to that is in Washington's hands. If I had the key in Tehran, I would have definitely used it, but unfortunately the key is in Washington. Right now, as we speak, if the U.S. investors, if the economic managers would like to come to Iran and make investments in Iran, we see no problem.
This visit is also an opportunity for Iran to assert its status as a regional power. Rouhani told reporters in Rome that the U.S. knows when it comes to the Middle East, it, quote, cannot achieve anything without Iran's influence or say. He linked anti-Iranian sentiments in the U.S. to the, quote, Zionist lobby, which he described as very influential. There will be no state dinner for the Iranian president in Paris after the French government refused an Iranian request not to serve wine. The Italians were more willing to accommodate the wishes of their guests. Wine was not on the menu of a dinner with business leaders, and nude statues were covered up so as not to offend.
Journalists are interested in talking about these distractions, but this is a minor thing. I don't have anything to say about this. I didn't know about this. I know the people of Italy are very hospitable and they want their guests to enjoy themselves in their country.
Italy's culture minister, Dario Franceschini, said he and Prime Minister Matteo Renzi were unaware of the decision to cover the statues, which has drawn criticism in both the media and political circles.
Yes, and with me in the studio tonight are Iranian politics expert Meir Javedanfar, good evening, and defense and government analyst for Haaretz, Amir Oren, good evening. And gentlemen, I want to take us first to Paris, where we're joined on the phone by Christian Mallard, I-24 News Paris correspondent. Good evening, Christian. Thank you for being with us tonight. Mr. Mallard, Italy and France are traditionally trade partners of Iran's. Can you tell us what expectations Rouhani's visit is being met with in France?
Well, definitely, he wants to put Iran back on the track of the international community and try to show that Iran is not the country we have been describing as a support of terrorism. But anyway, it's very difficult to change the nature of this country, which is supporting terrorism when you still support Hamas, Hezbollah, and you still deny the right to Israel, the right of Israel to exist. And this is one of the questions probably that he will be talking about in his face-to-face with President Hollande tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon at the Élysée Palace. Because this is the political part. And of course, the French, like the Italian, realize that you have to deal with Iran if you want to solve the Syrian problem, the Lebanese problem, and the big problem with Saudi Arabia. They are everywhere, and we have to deal with them. Now, at the economic level, it's true that everybody is rushing to Rouhani. I have seen the people of MEDEF International, the people of Airbus, who are hoping, they are still careful as long as it is not signed. It should be signed tomorrow afternoon, but there should be an agreement about 18.5 billion euro for the selling of 127 Airbuses.
Yes, Christian Mallard joining us from Paris. Thank you very much for that. Mayor, we have the view from Paris, but how is Rouhani's visit to Europe being met in Iran?
Well, the moderate press, which supports the president, is viewing this very positively, saying that this shows the path that Iran wants to take. The Iran newspaper, which is supports the position of President Rouhani, says that this shows the path that Iran should take, and this is the path that we want to take from now on. It should be cooperation with other countries. Then they also explain why it is that France and Italy are the countries that Iran is dealing with, especially Italy, which compared to other European countries took a more moderate line towards Iran, and now France is very important to Iran because of its past in the automotive sector. But of course, the hardliners are not taking this in a very positive light. Mr. Rouhani, while he was in Italy, if I'm not mistaken, he criticized the Guardian Council for disqualifying Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson, Hassan Khomeini, and they're saying, why are you criticizing one of the most important parts of the regime while you're in a foreign land, while you're in another part of the world? They're basically using any excuse in order to undermine him.
Well, speaking of hardliners, Amir, let's talk about hardliners in the West, because even though some European countries are very eager to renew business ties with Iran, how concerned are they about American hardliners?
You know, there is a lot of hypocrisy involved in all of this. We used to say, or to quote, Iran as having the United States as the great Satan and Israel as the small or little Satan. But there was a medium Satan too, and this was France. France, along with the United States, in 1983, has attacked Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and vice versa, and Iran was behind the Hezbollah. And Iranian agents have assassinated Shapur Bakhtiar and others in Paris or around it. They were really enemies, and many of the exiles from the former regime went to France, or from France to French Canada. There is a change here, and the Iranian regime has a lot to lose if it goes back to its old ways, and therefore it's a good thing that there is business between Paris or Rome or any other capital and Tehran. And let me tell you in secret, and hopefully Meir and others do not hear us, Israel too had some business with the Khomeini regime in the 80s. Some Israelis sold weapons. Even before the arms for hostages deal, some Israelis, from purely commercial reasons or interests, sold arms to the regime. So let's stop being hypocritical. This is the way the world works. Money is chasing projects, and governments are chasing money. And all in all, it's a good thing that the Iranian regime would have a lot to lose if it reverts to terror.
Well, would you agree, Meir, that the Iranian regime would have a lot to lose in this case? And how can we expect this to change the situation in the Middle East now, with Iran renewing ties with Europe? War-ravaged countries in the Middle East, are they also expected to feel this changed?
Well, the problem for Iran is that it has been far better than the state of Israel in making enemies for itself. I mean, if we think that the current government in Israel has been good at making enemies, we are a minnow, compared to the Iranian regime. It has made so many enemies for itself, and that's the issue. Mr. Rouhani is trying to improve relations with the countries in the region. He's even trying to reduce tensions with Israel, but that's the government. Then you have the much stronger regime, which wants to stay revolutionary, so they have been undermining him. So now, yes, the government is going to get more money, Amir, the government is going to get more business, but because Iran is a dual system that runs parallel to each other, we should not expect the regime to be nicer to the West. In fact, they're going to have a Holocaust cartoon in Tehran very soon, and we know what that happens when they have those exhibitions. They're going to be very hostile to the United States. The Saudis are as we've seen, they are one embassy down. So on the one hand, this is good news for the government of Iran, but this is bad news for anybody who wants to see a major change in Iran's strategy, because the Middle East file and the America file is not in the hands of this gentleman over here. It's in the hands of the regime.
But the question is whether the harsh rhetoric and the cartoon and all of that, is that a precursor to action, to terrorism, or to nuclear projects, or a substitute? If it's a substitute, let them have their cartoon exhibitions.
It's continuation of the status quo minus the nuclear program.
Well, Amir, speaking of the terrorism that you're mentioning, how is this likely to affect the potential peace talks in Syria?
Well, the peace talks are, of course, under the aegis of the United States. The UN emissary has been frustrated, but it mostly has to do with several players. The United States, Russia, and Bashar Assad, who is not always a very obedient pupil of Master Putin, because his own head is on the line. It's not a matter of regime in general, it's Bashar Assad personally. And Bashar has been resistant, but all in all, if Putin decides to put his foot on the ground, he has several bases within Syria. If he withdraws his support, Assad will be back to his natural size. As of late, he has gone back to being very cocky, but Putin, in one word, can put him down.
Yes, well.